Haji Turangzai was a religious leader who led a 20-year guerrilla war against the British in the tribal regions of the northwestern frontier of India. Haji Turangzai was against British policies such as high taxation, interference in tribal affairs, and the establishment of Western schools in tribal areas. In the year 1897, Haji Turangzai led a large army of Pashtun tribes in a revolt against the British authorities. The tribal army of Haji Turangzai managed to inflict heavy losses on the British, and the British soldiers were forced to flee many of the tribal areas in the northwestern frontier. After removing the British from the tribal areas, Haji Turangzai abolished all British institutions and replaced them with tribal and religious institutions. For example, Haji Turangzai abolished British schools and replaced the English education system with Islamic schools that focused on both religious and modern education. Haji Turangzai established hundreds of these schools throughout the tribal frontier. The British wanted to corrupt the youth, spread immorality, and impose a capitalistic worldview on the young people of the tribal areas. This policy was to ensure that people would be easier to subjugate and control. Therefore, Haji Turangzai conducted a widespread religious and cultural reform movement across the tribal areas in order to revive the rich culture of the brave Pashtun tribes of the region. Haji Turangzai managed to unite many Pashtun tribes under one banner of resistance, and his power and influence began to grow rapidly. Eventually, the influence of Haji Turangzai was no longer limited to the tribal regions of the frontier. Haji Turangzai received massive support from Indian Muslims in Delhi and other parts of India. Anti-British Muslim groups across India sent money and supplies to Haji Turangzai and expressed their desire to combine efforts in order to liberate India from British rule. Haji Turangzai also received support from revolutionary groups in Kabul who sent him weapons and supplies. Eventually, more towns and villages in the tribal areas began to be liberated by Haji Turangzai and his army, and soon he became a famous enemy of the British. Therefore, British authorities offered a huge reward for anyone who would capture Haji Turangzai dead or alive. As a result, Haji Turangzai became the target of multiple assassination attempts. On 12th June 1915, Haji Turangzai took refuge in the territory of the Muhammad tribe. The Muhammad tribe was a tribe that was extremely hostile to the British and was constantly engaged in a war with English authorities. Therefore, the territory of the Muhammad tribe was a safe place where Haji Turangzai could continue his war against the British with the full support of the population. Shortly after Haji Turangzai fled to the territory of the Muhammad tribe, British authorities began to recapture much of their lost territory in the tribal frontier. After recapturing several villages and towns which were previously controlled by Haji Turangzai, the British demolished all of the religious schools established by him and arrested all of the teachers who worked in the schools. However, Haji Turangzai continued to conduct hit-and-run attacks against British soldiers from his base in the Mohmand tribal areas. Haji Turangzai and his tribal army launched many successful raids against the British, and eventually they began to approach the important city of Peshawar and threatened to capture it from the British. Therefore, the British began to bomb his forces, resulting in dozens of civilian casualties. After months of violent clashes between the army of Haji Turangzai and British troops, the British managed to negotiate a peace treaty with the Mohmand tribe. The treaty stated that the British would not bother the Mohmand tribe as long as they made sure that Haji Turangzai did not conduct any more attacks against the British. This treaty was effective as the next few years that followed were largely peaceful. However, in 1926, the British decided to construct a road network in the frontier region to pave the way for swift mobilization of troops. This decision was strongly opposed by Haji Turangzai. Therefore, Haji Turangzai and his tribal forces began attacking British troops who were constructing the new road network. However, the British eventually managed to construct the road. A few years later, after the construction of the strategic road, the British attempted to regain control of various tribal territories which they had lost years ago. However, when the British tried to enter the territory of the Mohmand tribe where Haji Turangzai was staying, they were not successful. On 29th September 1935, Haji Turangzai and his tribal army ambushed a British garrison which was passing through the territory of the Mohmand tribe, killing 95 British soldiers. Haji Turangzai remained in the Mohmand tribal territory until his death, and he was never captured by the British. Haji Turangzai passed away on 14th December 1937.